consider that further restriction of the working hours would not be reasonable to be imposed, and it would not meet the 6 tests. With regards to the provision of an improved footpath along Haybridge Creek, which was another discussion along here, it is noted that although there is an informal footpath that runs along Haybridge Creek, this is not a public right-of-way. Officers have assessed this matter and consider that a planning obligation securing improvements of the footpath would go beyond what is reasonably related to the scale and kind of the proposed development, and therefore it would not meet the 3 tests for planning obligations. However, it is considered that necessary that sufficient and safe pedestrian link is provided between the site and the existing network. For that reason, a Grampian condition for the provision of an extended footpath that links the site with the existing footway cycleway along Aldi, which is here, is secured through the Grampian condition. So, in light of what's been already addressed, officers recommend approval of the application, subject to conditions imposed to the updated report submitted for the application, and obviously the planning obligation for the monitoring of the travel plan. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Members, I will open the floor. I've got one question that I'd like to ask, and that actually relates to landscaping, which I read in your report was a reserve matter. Does that mean that that will be decided by the department and you as the officer, or will that come back to this committee?
Through you, Chairman, a reserve matters application will have to be submitted to assess matters in relation to landscaping and appearance of the buildings. This is an application that members could call into committee. So yes, it could be decided either under delegated powers or by committee.
Thank you. Councillor Spenceley.
Thank you, Chairman. So in relation to condition 6, which is also on the members' update 5.19 and 5.110, regarding the Grampian condition for the pedestrian and cycle route, having visited the site, it became clear that it was even more important than we'd realised potentially, with the danger to pedestrians or cyclists trying to access the site without that facility there, as well as, of course, the sustainable transport, which we'd like to encourage. I noticed that the applicant's still resisting that, so obviously I'd really like that to be noted. That is absolutely going to happen as a part of the Grampian condition, but also noting the enforcement that's needed for the pathway that runs down the side of Aldi. And I would like just to say to officers, could we please have that enforced at the earliest opportunity? Otherwise, having the Grampian condition imposed will be meaningless. So I just would like that noted, please.
Michael.
Yep. Thank you, Chair. Just to say that is noted.
You want to say anything else?
Yeah, through you, Chairman, the Grampian condition is there to secure that it will be provided prior to the commencement. So, yeah, and okay. Michael already noted the matter about enforcement.
Thank you. Councillor Beale.
Thank you, Chair. Looking at that plan, am I right that the southeasterly side is where all of these lorries are going to be coming in and out?
Yeah. Through you, Chairman. The access to the site is through here, so part of the activity, but part of the activity will be on this side, but also part of the activity will be going down here. Yes, there are 2 turning facilities down here.
Oh, well, that's what I'm worried about, because if those buildings had been turned round, like all of the other buildings on that site, which were facing internally, we wouldn't have had all the issue with the noise. You've got all the noise coming from the lorries and everything else directly over to Wharf. Is it Wharf Road?
Yeah.
Yes.
Over to Wharf Road. It's not going to be such an issue now for Battle Rise. But to me, they've been laid out wrong. It's just something that I've noticed practically. Them buildings should have been manipulated round so that, like all of the other buildings on that site, all of the walls were to the creek. And I mean, I know we can't change it now, but to me, it's just wrong.
Yeah, if I can go back through you, Chairman, there is a reason why it's been laid out this way. And the reason is that the Environment Agency has requested a 20-metre gap from the defences so they can have access in the future, if need be, to do maintenance works. So that land, that is the hatched area, I don't know if you can see that, that should remain clear from buildings. That's why it's been laid out this way.
Yeah, but coming back, that's basically causing the issue because of the way that they've insisted. I mean, I know that it's the Environment Agency, and I did ask the guy who was showing us round, why is it like this? And he said, because, I said, how did the Environment Agency maintain that seawall? And his answer was they come on site. So that's why it's been done like that. But you don't need 20 metres to get a lorry in to maintain a seawall.
Yeah, you do.
But basically those buildings are orientated the wrong way. If all of them, the long wall had been this way, and the same with that turned round, say it was facing the other entrance, it's just all wrong. It's created the problem. But so we've got to decide on this application on what they've put forward.
Yes, you can. Yes, of course.
Just a reminder that the site is already used as open storage. When we visited the site, this area down here did have loads of materials stored. At present, lorries and other machinery can go down here and store materials in that area because it has a lawful use as open storage and storage and distribution. So it is used already for those purposes, and the lawful operational hours is 24/7. That's just a reminder.
I know what you're saying. Basically, they have actually put in a noise report. And as you said, they are dealing 24/7 at the minute. But we were worried about the noise. And as I said, if anyone had half a brain, they would have turned those buildings round and probably still had their 20 metres that they insisted on. And it would have reduced any noise. It would have reduced it more than what it is now.
Yes.
So.
Thank you. Councillor Swain.
Thank you, Chairman. Just to clarify a couple of these points we've just covered. This Grampian condition actually depends upon the district council doing something, effectively,
No, it doesn't.
rather than Aldi.
No. Yes.
Through you, Chairman, no, it's the developer, the applicant, who would have to form the footpath prior to the commencement of the development.
You can't do anything.
Yeah,
Including the Aldi bit.
that's a separate matter. This is a matter for enforcement. This is outside the determination of the current application.
I'll be entirely on the carriageway owned by the...
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, now on this question of hours, you've said they actually operate 24 hours currently, but that is going to be restricted to 11 o'clock under
Yes.
the yes. I understand the layout, and I think, should we say, we should accord the Environment Agency the full width that it really wants, because maintaining and developing this seawall is going to be extremely important. There's another point about illumination. I think it was condition 19. It said something about no external illumination.
Yes, it does. It does say 19, no
but-
external.
But surely there has to be external illumination for during the working hours.
Through you, Chairman, you need to consider that the site is located adjacent to nature conservation sites, and we would need to protect species that they live in those areas. So a lighting scheme would have to be submitted to and approved in writing. It would just need to be sensitive for the species. Yeah,
Yes, but obviously
it would still be lighting. Yeah.
lighting for working hours.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes. The more important issue is on this question of archaeological investigation, and I think there's a fairly strong condition in there about doing some groundworks some trial works for assessing the. So it is a bit more than a desk exercise. Is it possible to add something which I think is down there on one of the informatives relating to something else about pollution or about contamination? In other words, that the developer should report anything found during the course of the development work, as is, say, in addition to anything that's done as a sort of trial digs beforehand.
Condition 30 and 31 relate to the assessment prior to development for the
It's
archaeological.
page 30, 31.
Yeah. Yes, of course.
Yeah, through Chairman. Yeah, there are two conditions about archaeology, as has been stated. Normally, if the environmental health officers have records of contamination or pollution, they do require a condition for contamination to be imposed. In this instance, it was just requested to be an informative. So if something is identified, yeah.
Yes, but my question is, can we have a similar
Condition.
An informative relating to anything archaeologically found during the works?
That would have to be the two conditions imposed in relation to archaeology means that if something's been found, they will have to notify the heritage people in Essex County Council. So it is part of the condition. Yeah.
Yeah, it does
It is-
say that in the
it is part of
condition.
it.
Anything found in their sort of trial?
Yeah. So when they do the works, if they found anything, they need to notify. Yeah, it's covered in the condition.
Finally, Chairman,
Yes.
5210 does point out the rudimentary and utilitarian style of the buildings, which is very sad when you think of the vast roof area that's there, which probably won't have any solar panels or anything. Is this something we can take up at the detail planning stage?
No. Miss Tesler, go on.
Yeah, through you, Chairman. We at the moment don't have a policy. Our policy is silent in relation to renewable energy on proposed buildings. It would be positive if it would be added, but it would be up to the applicant to decide whether they want to install solar panels into the roof.
Yeah.
We can't
They are
condition that.
They are putting in EV points. I did see that,
Yes,
but
it just
nothing
seems
else.
to me with the
I know.
vast roof area they've got there, they could be positive, energy positive.
Of course, but we can't even condition for that, unfortunately. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I mean, I'll just add, and it's probably pretty standard, that there are certain, energy and carbon requirements that would have to be satisfied, but that's through building control.
Yes, of course.
Thank you, Chair.
Members, Councillor Lagan.
Thanks, Chair. Just a couple of questions. Well, points really, because I can't vote on it because I couldn't get the time to go to the place, although I know where it is. You mentioned because I can't get past noise.
Yeah.
So you mentioned that it's considered that the impact of noise will not be negative. I can't remember the planning wording that you used. It's an open space at the moment. My question is, when it's a building, how do you know what models were used? Because at the moment we're not measuring eggs with eggs, and as Councillor Beale has said, with the buildings being turned around and the sides are going to be up, you're going to get reverberation. You're going to get more machinery in there. You're going to get a lot more noise, and I think you said it wouldn't be reasonable. To me, it just seems counterintuitive that it would be reasonable to have some sort of noise attenuation system in place, because it's going to go across, because water makes things travel as well. So I'm just flummoxed by the fact that we can't say in a reasonable way that we should be able to put something in there, because at the moment you've got a nice big flat open area and then you're going to put a load of buildings on it. It doesn't make sense.
The reverberation, yes, of course.
Through you, Chairman. The noise report that's been submitted with the application considered the worst case scenarios. The existing use of the site is B8, storage and distribution, but is open. The proposed use of the site is B8, storage and distribution contained within buildings. So effectively what's been raised within the noise assessment and the environmental health officer is that actually the noise is going to be contained within the building rather than being in the open. So that's why it's been considered that it is unreasonable to add a condition for acoustically designed units.
Yeah, of course.
What are those readings?
What are those readings?
So you said the readings that were considered, the noise that levels going to go would be considered. So what were the noise levels? I mean, is that how do you do that? Do you model that in a specific way? Because it is going to be noisy no matter what we sit here and say, and it is going to impact on people. And I know it's an industrial state, so I'm aware of that.
Yeah, through you, Chairman.
Yeah.
Obviously, I'm not the expert I'm not a noise consultant, but to give you an idea as to how this has been assessed, they consider the existing background noise, and onto that they add the noise generated by the proposed use. I mean, when it's going to be built. So they found out that the noise levels would not increase higher than the existing background noise to an extent that it would require mitigation measures. That's how it's been assessed. Obviously, the exact readings, numbers, the noise report is been submitted and is on the public domain.
Can I?
I would just draw attention also to condition 17. No external plant or machinery shall be used unless and until details of the equipment have been submitted to and approved by the local planning authority. Any measures required by the local planning authority to reduce noise from the plant or equipment shall be completed prior to the plant being brought into use and retained thereafter. So effectively, obviously, any equipment that they're going to be used that might have a sound implication because it's mechanical, electrical, will have to be subject to an assessment, and where mitigation is appropriate, especially noise levels and how they're travelling, will have to be agreed and approved by us. Thank you, Chair.
Going on from Councillor Lagan, I understand exactly where you're coming from. We can condition. My only concern is that this could be appealed against, and obviously I need to make the point that if we then don't succeed in upholding our position, then there may be costs that are involved with that. So as long as we know what we're letting ourselves in for, if members want to condition, we can do that. I'll come back to you. Councillor Stilts.
Thank you. Like Councillor Lagan, I can't vote on this, but I do have one question. You're saying that the noise from this factory when it's built will be no different to the noise that's there now. What are the hours that they're working now? Because they're going to be working longer hours when this factory's built.
No. Yes, carry on.
Through Chairman, they have lawful operational hours. The current operational hours are 24/7. The proposed are 7 till 11. So they're going to be reduced. No nighttime operation.
Is it a new question?
It was just a comment on this question of noise, which I hadn't mentioned.
Okay.
I accept what Councillor Lagan says about noise travelling over water, but the combination of working inside and limited hours would seem to me that the noise level may actually be less.
Yeah, it could be. Councillor Lagan, did you want to come back at all?
Yeah, no, thanks. I mean, it's all valid debate, but the only comment I say about conditioning, I said that's our job, isn't it? As members, we're supposed to.
Of course, yeah, no.
You know, it's if we roll over and go, oh, we're too scared to do all of that. What are we doing here?
No, if you want to make a recommendation, then that's fine.
No, because what I would do, Madam Chairman, is because of what Mr. Johnson said, gives me a little bit of surety that the noise is not going to be as bad, and that's been thought of. But it's on record that I'm still concerned about the level of noise and the impact.
Yeah, I too am concerned about it, and I think we have been through that. Do I have any other? Sorry, Councillor Beale.
Yeah, sorry, I think the answer's in the drawing. If those buildings were round so that the back walls were facing the creek, you wouldn't have any issue with noise at all because it would all be internal into the site. So whichever way I go, it's purely on the orientation of the buildings.
Members, the proposal is to approve this application with the 31 conditions that and 9 informatives that we already have, which included the archaeological ones, which was much stronger than it was originally. I'm going to make the proposal to approve this application. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Swain, thank you. Can we now go to the vote? All those in favour? 1, 2, 3. That's 3. And all those against? And 1 against. Could that be recorded as 3 for and 1 against? And I've abstained. Thank you. Thank you, members. Are you okay to run? Perfect. We now move to. Yes, sorry. Yes, that is carried. Thank you. We now move to item 6, application 22/00603, 102B and 102C, High Street, Malden, found on pages 51 to 62. There were also supplementary papers that were circulated yesterday. I think it was just a single page from memory. This has come to committee as the application was called in by Councillor Swain on the grounds of concerns in relation to policy D1 and E2. We move to the officer, who is Miss Bowles. Could you present your report, please?
Thank you, Chair. Planning permission is sought for the change of use of an existing retail unit to merge with the unit next door to create one restaurant and to replace the frontage of both units. So here's the location plan. And this is the existing floor plan. This is the High Street frontage here. And this is a proposed floor plan. And as you can see, the 2 units will be merged. These are the existing elevations. The application is a retrospective one and the elevations are now not as shown. And this was the existing front elevation with the 2 units shown. This is the proposed front elevation, which is what is now in the High Street, except for the sign. And these are the proposed elevations. Here's the rear with the 2 windows that are going to be blocked up and the duct and flue that are going to be added. This is what is currently on the High Street without the salt name above it. This is the rear elevation currently. View from the High Street to the rear and a view from the rear of the site to the neighbouring property. The change of use of the retail unit to a restaurant is considered acceptable in principle, particularly having regard to the fallback position, which confirms that the proposed change of use could be undertaken without the need for planning permission. Further, it is not considered to have a detrimental impact on the function, vitality or viability of the primary retail function of the area. The impact on the neighbouring residential properties can be minimised to an acceptable level by conditions, and the external changes to the front are considered acceptable and are not considered to be detrimental to the conservation area. Therefore, the application is recommended for approval.
Thank you. Excellent. We have one public participant for this item, Mr. Cumbers, the agent. Mr. Cumbers, I'd like to invite you to come forward. Please take a seat. And turn on your microphone, please. Are you okay with that? Okay, I'd like to remind you, you've got 2 minutes for your submission.
Okay, good evening. I'd like to bring a few points to the committee's attention. The shop unit 102C, formerly occupied by Morgan Discount, has been empty for over 2 years, and before the applicant took over the building, there's been no interest for any commercial use. There are also many other empty shops in the high street. This is a sign not only of the rise of internet shopping, but also 3 large supermarkets around Morgan Bypass, all with free car parking, drawing shoppers away from the town centre. I accept that Malden is a market town, as the strategy team suggests, but where is the town market now? They also suggest the proposals have design cues of a seaside resort. However, the proposal is for a family restaurant. There is no intention for off-sales of food or drink, and certainly no buckets and spades as the previous shop, Morgan Discount, used to sell. Both the strategy team and the town council criticised the shopfront as being uncharacteristic of the conservation area. However, the council's conservation officer has stated that the shopfront is an improvement on the previous situation and results in no further harm to the conservation area. The applicant has tried to move forward his opening date to enable him to recover some of the financial outlay in renovating and improving this building and provide a smart specialist pizza restaurant. I ask the members to support his efforts and this application. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Cumbers. Okay, members, I'm going to open to discussions. I'd like to actually come to Councillor Swain first of all, please.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. There are a number of points. Obviously, I think we must all be puzzled by this fact that planning permission doesn't seem to be needed, in which case one wonders what we're doing here, and just what we are. But I mean, there are a number of points to be said. Assuming I'll get an answer on that, I suppose. About which I suppose is what is meant by the fallback position. To take the 3 aspects. One is on this design, and I note in the papers the officers point out that it's undesirable to have such a long frontage of 3 units it's termed. I mean, apparently this is 3 units, and the fact that you've got the other Sark next door, I don't think is any argument in favour of another long frontage, which is one negative which the officers point out. They're quite keen to say that one change isn't significant in the total high street, but the point is that the high street, the vitality of the high street depends upon the range of offer, diversification. So there is a danger of it becoming ceasing to be a proper high street if one has this expansion, and therefore I'm against this, should we say, loss of a retail premises. That has been used as an argument by the officers in a number of other cases for refusing applications, the loss of retail outlets, and now it's being, should we say, elided in this instance. If I could refer to the application is to change from E subsection A to E class E subsection B, and E specifically excludes hot food. B simply says that it is for food and drink principally to visiting members of the public, when consumption of food and drink is mainly undertaken on the premises. I can't see how this will not lead to takeaways of some sort, and I wonder how we would monitor mainly eaten on the premises to partially eaten on the premises. So I think there is this this risk of parking and picking up food, prepared meals or whatever, which is what we've used as an argument against 1 or 2 other situations. I'd just like to mention this question about the noise and smells that would be generated by being a restaurant and therefore producing much more hot food and so on. The neighbours to this are in fact not next door; they're above this property, and it's difficult to see how they would not be impacted by noise and smells coming from down below on an extended hours period. Overall, I think, as I think the officers might admit, it's a balanced decision, but it seems to me that this loss of the design factor, the loss of retail premises is a strong argument for refusing the application.
Thank you. Councillor Lagan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm quite fond of buckets and spades. I do like going down there, but I get the point. I have a major disappointment. This is a retrospective application.
I agree.
You know, they've charged ahead and started work, and then it's come to us to make a decision. But with a high street, whether I like it or not is immaterial. It's as I scrutinise D1 and E2 to have a look and see, you know, does it work or does it not? And I couldn't find anything that I could actually hook on to say that it's definitely not something that should be allowed. And high streets, I've known the high street all my life because I was born here, and they all evolve. You know, and we used to have loads of estate agents, and you know, we'd have nail bars, and we got heaps of restaurants, and in 25 years' time, we'll have something completely different. And the Morton Discount did stay empty for a long time and didn't look. It was a gaudy yellow sort of shop front. So from a perspective of, you know, the employment that it's going to bring, the offer that it's going to bring, and the way that it looks, I particularly don't have a problem supporting the recommendation from the officer, although clearly that should be caveated that this is, you know, very, very disappointing that it's come as a retrospective application.
Absolutely, thank you. Councillor Edwards and then Councillor Stilts.
Thank you, Chairman. First of all, I have to agree with Councillor Langan. This unit, or the one on the left, has been empty for some time. If we wanted retail companies to come in there, they haven't approached us, so that doesn't exist. And secondly, and you already pointed it out, it will produce employment in the town, and that's what we need. Thank you.
Councillor Stilts.
Thank you. I've got a couple of questions. If we can go to the picture of the inside of the store. So it's not going to be a takeaway, but we've got a separate bit doing pizza area. Or is that going to be just serving pizzas in that area?
Yes, of course.
There's no detail regarding where they're going to serve pizzas, but having been in pizza restaurants, a pizza oven can be quite spectacular to see, and it may well be that it's out on the shop floor so that people can see the pizzas cooking.
It just made me wonder, if we're saying there's no takeaway, why that area is separate to the other area. That was all. And the other third question I'm going to ask is about this noise objection from environmental health because of the flats above. Have we asked, I know we're going to ask that an assessment should be undertaken and submitted. Are we going to ask for that before, like we have done with other establishments in the town?
Yes, Ms Bowles. Oh, sorry. Mr Johnson.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, I do believe, and Mrs. Bowles can correct me, that the submission of the details and their clearance would be before. Well, the condition is actually not quite clear when I looked at this fairly recently, but it can be tweaked to ensure that, you know, before trade-in or before the opening of the premises, that, and in fact, it would be necessary to do that in order to ensure that the appropriate mitigation is in place. So that can be easily covered through the conditions.
Are we also going to go for odour as well?
Yes.
Mrs Bowles.
Through you, Chair, thank you. The use class you questioned regarding takeaway. Takeaways are a separate use class, so they will not be able to run a takeaway from the restaurant that would be enforceable, or they would have to put in an application for permission to do so.
Would you like to come back?
I was going to say, so what is the force of the wording then? That it's mainly eaten on the premises. Surely that implies that some is not eaten on the premises, or would be permissible to be not eaten on the premises.
I don't know. I think, yeah, English.
But when it comes to court,
Absolutely.
doesn't it?
I think we need to just make sure that our conditions are very tight, that takeaways are not allowed to be operated. Chris, could you turn your, yeah, thank you.
The takeaway use is a separate use. It does come under class F, and therefore they cannot use it as takeaway.
Okay, Councillor Steele, hold on, I've gone to Councillor Steele, I will come back to you. Councillor Stilts.
Thank you. It's just a quick question. Looking at the drawings there, and it was something that shows 3 door openings, and there's only actually 1 on the shop front.
Through you, Chair. These 2 here are the openings that are going to be blocked up. They're in dotted lines.
Is that okay? Thank you. Mr. Johnson.
Thank you, Chairman. Just back onto the sort of use class issue, yeah? And the fallback position. The fallback position is that under the current use classes order, which was amended in August 2020, from the old style, which used to include class A1, A2, A3, A4, and A5, yeah? The A class of the old order pre-August 2020 has been rescinded, and they're now all been amalgamated under Class E. Class E includes Class A1, A2, and A3 of the old classes order. Class A4 and A5 specifically related to pubs and wine bars, and Class A5 was takeaways, yeah? Now you explicitly need planning permission for those 2 uses, yeah? So there is no fallback in terms of takeaways and pubs and wine bars and things of that nature. Now, under this application, the applicant has applied for a restaurant. A restaurant would have fallen under the use classes, or the old use classes order, under A3. It is now within Class A1. So this application, by its very description, is one that would fall within the A3. That prohibits a takeaway element. But it is within members' gift, if they so wish, to have a condition to sort of belt and braces, yeah, that there should be no takeaway elements. But that's explicit within what this application has been applied for.
I know, necessary.
So just there's a couple of other points you made reference to, Councillor Swain, in terms of the flu. There are conditions, and Councillor Stills made mention to that as well. There are some conditions in terms of details for the flu to control, well, principally the odour, but also and relating to upper floors. And this is quite standard right across most planning authorities, the control of vibrations, yeah? So normally if a flue is attached to a wall, there'd be, anti-vibration mounts and that sort of things. The flue must extend above the eaves or above, the highest point on any building of which there is a residential window. So it would discharge upwards into the air, yeah? So these are the things that in the submission of any detail, we'd be looking to be satisfied. And that must be clear, that must be agreed with us before the development can actually commence. Well, in this sense, it is retrospective, but before the use itself can commence, or before trading. Again, it's within our gift just to be quite specific in terms of those particular conditions. You mentioned the shop front, and the fact that there is, it's contrary to E2. I mean, there is flexibility within E2, and I'll just draw members' attention also to the fact that there was an appeal decision in 2019 on 102C, I think. Yep, 102C.
Yes.
And within that appeal decision, quite earlier on, the inspector specifically noted that the local planning authority had no objection against the change of use from retail to A3. Now, this was before the change in the use classes order, yeah, just to be clear. The inspector explicitly said he has no reason to disagree with the council's position in that. If the inspector had reason, he could, again, through the legislation, bring that into a consideration. He chose not to do that. He recognised also in terms of what that would have meant in terms of the shop front or the retail frontage within the town centre, and also in terms of its design, which sort of links into the whole design issue as well. The inspector refused that appeal strictly in terms of the shopfront design as it was at the time, because it did not include glazing bars and specifically vertical glazing bars. We can see by this design here that, you know, it's principally, I mean, the photograph shows exactly how it is. It is principally one of glazing bars, which fits in with the character of the street. Okay, the materials are different, but in terms of the general rhythm, so?
Materials are not different. They were originally metal.
Right.
They are still metal.
Okay, yeah.
Just a different colour.
Right, yeah. So in a way, it keeps in with the character, obviously in a broad sense, yeah, because it's a modern building. It fits in with the character of the general rhythm within the high street. So again, those are reasons why officers support this scheme. I mean, we're not looking for like, but we're looking for a rhythm, and we're looking for something which is sympathetic. Doesn't necessarily mean it has to be identical. I think those are the points I've covered. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. I think you've actually had a quite a good explanation as to where we sit on that. I'd like to go to other members first, and also I've got a question about the noise impact, especially in relation to air conditioning units, which I know, but I don't remember seeing anything in the report about air conditioning units. Ms. Bowles.
Through you, Chair. There is a condition regarding any other external plant or machinery that will be installed. All the details of the equipment have to be submitted and approved by the local planning authority.
Okay, thank you. I'll now come to Councillor Lagan, and then Councillor Stilts, and then Councillor Beale. Actually, I'm actually going to go to Councillor Beale first, because Councillor Beale hasn't spoken on this matter.
That makes a change, doesn't it? Right, I'm not sure if this is a point of order, but I'd like clarification on what we should actually call the chair. Because everyone's calling you chairman at the minute.
That's fine, I'm quite happy with that.
I mean, I've been calling you chair, but...
And I'm quite happy with you calling me that as well. I don't have a particular preference either which way.
Well, now you're happy, that's all that matters.
Well, I don't mind. Thank you. Thank you for asking.
I'm just noting that out of the 4 consultees that we've got replies from, 3 out of the 4 have objected to it. And I can't believe the conservation officer says it's absolutely wonderful. Obviously, she could borrow a pair of my glasses, I reckon. And there's no doubt at all that we are definitely not going to go hungry in Malden.
No, I don't think
I mean, you know, the percentage of places to get somewhere to eat, if you can afford it, is a little bit OTT.
Yeah, I think the conservation officer actually said that it was an improvement on what was there before, and more along the lines that he actually wanted. Thank you. Councillor Lagan.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, you Councillor Bill's right. You're not going to go hungry, but it's just the evolution of the town at the moment, isn't it? So, this is a slight diversion from what we're debating, but Mr. Johnson kindly sort of said we was going to give to condition no takeaways. I can't see why on earth we would put that condition in when so many other places have that joint facility, and SARC, I believe, does the same. So it worried me a little bit that we might be curtailing the opportunity for someone to expand their business, irrespective of how I personally feel about the look and the way that it was done. Personally, I'd like to see, you know, this business take off, be successful, and then put an application in separately for a takeaway if that's what they want to do. I don't want to cut them off now. I think that would be morally and fundamentally the wrong thing to do.
Yeah, well, I think it's quite clear that that in the class you can't be a takeaway, and that if you want to be a takeaway, you've got to apply for a separate permission, and to condition for it, I think, is unnecessary and doesn't meet the standards that we have to if you're going to condition. So yeah, I think you've got a good point there. Councillor Stilts.
I was actually going to say almost the same as Councillor Lagan. I think it would be detrimental to these people, the fact that they would be probably the only non-takeaway in the high street. So, you know, to actually put that condition in, I think would be wrong. But if we can go to the view of the back on your pictures, that one, are we going to be assured that that unit, which is a refrigerated unit, is actually going to go?
Mr. Johnson.
Thank you, Chairman.
I'm quite happy with Chairman, thank you.
I would just add, that's not just a Malden matter. I have had this before in other authorities. There is an open enforcement case. I'm sure the agent is pretty much aware that the enforcement team have had very consistent and up to fairly recent communications with his client in terms of the enforcement matters. So we're very much on it. Awaiting the outcome of this application is obviously all part of that. But specifically to addressing the refrigeration unit, which is not part of the application, I just confirmed that, is not part of the application, is a matter that will need to be addressed.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. I will come back to Councillor Spain.
Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Stop it!
Yes, I'd just like to mention one point you've made in there, that although it's been mentioned that the places Malden Discount have been empty for a long time, the point has been made in the papers that there's no proof that it's actually been advertised for sufficient length of time as an available retail unit. Maybe that does exist, but it's obviously this hasn't been provided to the officers. On a second point, following on to what Mr. Johnson's been discoursing on, I think it would be very, very helpful to members to know just what the scope is for moving within Class E between the subsections.
Maybe that's a training opportunity. Yeah, I'll take that on as a training opportunity. Thank you, Councillor Swain. Members, there is a recommendation to approve this application subject to 8 conditions and 1 informative. I propose that this application is approved. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Lagan. Mrs. Bowles, can you go through the condition about the flue and to ensure that that is a strong enough condition, particularly in relation to the residential properties above?
Yes.
I think is there 2 flats above? I think it's 2 flats above.
Yeah,
pretty sure it's 2 flats.
yeah, I will make it prior to
Popular.
through you, Chair.
Yeah.
I shall make it prior to the business commencing. The noise and the odour attenuation mitigation will need to be approved by the council.
That's sufficient, isn't it, Mr. Johnson? Yeah, that's lovely. Okay, so I have a proposal. I have a seconder. Can we take a vote on this? All those in favour? 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 for. Those against? 2 against. Any abstentions? Me? Thank you. That's carried 5 to 2. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. I appreciate your time on this. I move to item 7. Any other business by the chairman of the committee decides there's urgent. No, I don't have any. Thank you very much. I close this meeting at 8:25.